Detective Jane Harper was known for her sharp instincts and unyielding resolve. She'd solved many cases, but none had shaken her quite like the recent string of murders in the quiet town of Crestwood. Each victim was found with a cryptic code scrawled beside them, numbers and letters that seemed meaningless at first glance. The first victim was a local historian, discovered in his study with the code R3D5D7 written in blood. The second was a librarian, found with G4T2F6 etched into her desk. The town was gripped with fear, and it was up to Jane to crack the code before the killer struck again. One rainy night, Jane was at her office, analyzing the latest victim's case. She glanced at the codes from the previous murders, trying to find a pattern. Frustrated, she ran her fingers through her hair and sighed. The numbers and letters seemed random, and every lead had been a dead end. As midnight approached, Jane's phone rang. It was the precinct, reporting another murder. The scene was a secluded cabin on the edge of town. Jane arrived to find the victim, a local journalist, lying in a pool of blood with a new code, L9X1E3, on the wall. Jane meticulously examined the crime scene. As she studied the code, she noticed something peculiar. The letters and numbers weren't entirely random, but seemed to follow a pattern that might relate to the town's landmarks. With renewed determination, she quickly plotted out Crestwood's notable locations on a map. She realized that the codes, when mapped out, pointed to significant sites in the town, forming a route. The route led her to an old, abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Jane's heart pounded as she approached the factory, its darkened windows and rusted doors looming ominously. Inside, the factory was eerily silent. Jane followed the trail of codes, each one leading her deeper into the building. The codes seemed to guide her like breadcrumbs, revealing a chilling trail of evidence. Finally, she reached a dimly lit room at the factory's heart. There, in the center of the room, was a table with a typewriter, and sitting beside it was the killer, typing furiously. Jane drew her gun, stepping into the room. The killer looked up, a smirk on his face. "You're too late, detective," he said calmly. "The final code is almost complete." Jane's eyes narrowed as she took in the scene. "Why the codes? What's the purpose?" The killer laughed softly. "The codes were a game, a puzzle to make you see the truth. You see, I wasn't just killing people, I was teaching you a lesson about trust and deception. Each code was a piece of a larger truth." Jane moved swiftly, apprehending the killer and ending the nightmare. As the authorities arrived, she reflected on the case. The codes had been a twisted game, a way for the killer to expose the hidden fears and secrets of the town. The town of Crestwood slowly returned to normalcy, but Detective Jane Harper would never forget the Midnight Code, the case that tested her skills and revealed the dark corners of the human mind.